Well, there are two different things. As regards the secondary raw materials, the Commission has said that it wants to take action to instigate markets for secondary raw materials and also quality criteria for secondary raw materials. From my point of view, this may be tried, but not necessarily be successful, because secondary raw materials should ideally be of highest quality to be fit for products being made out of them. That, however, means in order to be fit for a product to be made, you need to, as a secondary raw material, suffice product requirements. So the criteria necessary are already there, and they come from product requirements. What is not fit to go into a product is not a fit secondary raw material. That's as simple as that. So the question is, if you then create, besides the product market, a setting of secondary raw material quality criteria, will that be able to enhance that uptake of the material? I very strongly doubt it. And there is a lot of thinking still to be applied on the Commission side as to where to go really in detail on this. It's definitely important to raise awareness for the need of using more secondary raw materials, but the most important factor is to supply a sufficient availability of material that can be recycled into secondary raw materials. When you look, for instance, into plastics, that's a very good example. The finding is that a lot of material qualified for recycling doesn't reach the recycler, either because it's landfilled, or because it's incinerated, or because it's not separately collected and properly and cleaned or clean in the first place, or because it's exported. So action has been taken in the package to repair that situation by closing landfills for separately collected materials. We can therefore expect that in the future recyclers of whatever, in particular, however, for plastic, as regards municipal waste, will have more material available to be recycled, because what recyclers tell me regularly is that there is a shortage of recyclable material. That is a good question for which I don't have an answer, and I strongly doubt that anyone else has an answer for this. As I said initially, quality standards for secondary raw materials very much depend on what product standards you have and what material therefore must fulfill product standards. So the standards are already there, and I personally doubt that standards for secondary raw materials as a separate set of standards will not serve a useful purpose, just as your question has indicated, because the world you want to regulate is too complicated, too diverse to be a successful subject of targeted regulation. So we may continue thinking about this, and we may find an answer that I do not see at the moment, but there are strong doubts that this is a proper approach. Quite right, there's a landfill ban on separately collected bio-waste and a separate obligation in future to separately collect bio-waste in the first place. Now it's only a recommendation in the present legislation. This shall be in future, there shall be obligation. And there's no differentiation to food waste. That's probably not a fault or a mistake or a disadvantage in the legislation. Legislation should not be too prescriptive. Under this legislation, in any case, any local authority has, or any member state has, the power to go even a step further and to prescribe food waste to be separately collected, which actually does make a lot of sense. There are good examples. If you think of the city of Milan, who's doing precisely this in a densely populated area, separately collecting food waste very successfully. With a high preparedness of a population to support this, producing lots of energy and saving on CO2 by doing that. Highly successful, a wonderful model for the rest of Europe. But this can be done through member states' genuine competence to regulate, and needs not to be regulated on European level. there was initially a kind of a very basic lack of preparedness to regulate anything in terms of targets any further, which is definitely not the way we have to go to in the future. And I think I'm not too wrong to assume that a vast majority of member states is on the same line, that we need new targets and that we need new operational instruments to make these targets attainable. And I doubt whether the UK today has a different position. Nothing of this type has come to my ears yet. I think UK is very constructive in the Council negotiations. So I'm optimistic that we'll have a good outcome there.